Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda. Hello, Matt.
Hello, David.
Hello, David, and welcome to all of our listeners, wherever you are. This is the Feeling Good podcast, episode 474. You heard David Burns there and Matt May. So this must be another Ask David episode. And indeed it is. And I do have a beautiful endorsement to start the podcast episode with. This is from Monica. And she's writing you from Canada. And she said, "Thank you for sharing the information with us. How wonderfully transparent you are in the podcasts. I love the funny, light-hearted greetings. You sound silly and Rhonda always laughs. It's marvelous. My favorite podcast of all of the Feeling Good podcasts is the Ask David episodes, because it seems to me you all always bring it to life with the role-playing. Thank you so much for the podcasts. As always, I so appreciate your work, and I'm living a better life thanks to you all. Cheers, Monica."
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, what a beautiful statement. Thank you so much.
All right.
Great to be back with you both. Thank you, Rhonda.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you, Matt. It's really fun to be back on. So let's dive into Julia, who asked about the importance of doing positive reframing on feelings versus specific thoughts. Dear David.
And after the first sentence, I have a quick comment to make.
Okay. Dear David and Rhonda, I listened today to the podcast 460 on the fear of happiness.
You can do the second sentence.
What a wonderful podcast.
Yeah. And I just want to mention that I heard from that person because we tried to point the arrow, and I can't remember the details, but he sent me a very, I hope I copied it to you guys, but a very excited email that we were right on target and whatever we had suggested. I think the hidden emotion technique just blew his mind and opened the door. And it was very exciting. And the only reason I mention that is because sometimes we go in like we might right now on Julia's question or someone else's question, and it's just so nice to see when we talk about a problem someone's got and our hunches, and then that turns out to be pure gold for them. It means a lot to us. But anyway, back to what you were doing so wonderfully well, Rhonda.
Well, here's more from Julia. She writes, "I love the deeper dives on one topic, and especially when you focus on discussing positive reframe. If Rhonda felt like she didn't do her best on that podcast, I definitely was struggling a lot, even on coming up with positives for Thomas. And it's been some years since I've positively reframed my feelings. Here is my question. Why is it more important to do positive reframing on feelings such as anxiety, anger, sadness, frustration, rather than on specific thoughts, such as, I should be calmer? So why is it more important to do positive reframing on feelings rather than on specific? I always find it easier and more helpful for myself to positively reframe the specific thoughts rather than the feelings. I specifically see the reason why a thought is both serving me and saying something so awesome about me and my core values. It usually elevates my mood and my overthinking on the spot. On the other hand, doing positive reframing on feelings is also very helpful, but can remain sometimes on the general level. It still truly speaks to me and I confirm every value, but it's less poignant than specific thoughts. Thank you both, and Matt May, for such a wonderful podcast. All the best, Julia.
Great, from Italy.
From
so
Italy.
I'll give you guys first shot at this, and then I've given it some thought. I'll give you my thinking at the end.
Sure. David, I remember when you first introduced this exercise of positive reframing, and how it kind of revolutionized the thinking about mental health, and to shift a gear from seeing it as a disorder that we would label but really to actually understand why we can feel proud of the symptoms that we have. If we're feeling depressed, that there's a beautiful part of our values being expressed, or if we're feeling anxious, it shows how much we're caring about people. And I think maybe that's part of the answer, is that we want to start to realize that our feelings are awesome and they say wonderful things about us, rather than feeling ashamed of our feeling states. So that might be one part of the answer. I find it easier in positive reframing to just have a basic playbook to know what feelings are attached to what values. That's been helpful for me. Like, anxiety is always about something we care about deeply, that we don't want to go badly. Or anger is about protecting someone we love and care about, or a cause that we care about. But I also like having the thoughts there, so we have a little bit more. I think the thoughts help us identify the values more clearly. And oftentimes the value is expressed right there in the thought. But I think it's a brilliant method, David, and it's helped me and so many of my patients.
Thank you. I love your answer that both can be helpful, and I'll spit out mine second, and I'll give you the last word, Rhonda. But Jeremy chimed in on this, the CEO of our Feeling Great app company, and someone you both know very well. And he said that he's been using, practicing what we preach here, and using the daily mood log, and doing a lot of positive reframing when he's been upset. And he says that the thoughts are much more powerful to him. And of course, he's working with our Feeling Great app too at the same time, that the thoughts are unique to him. And so it gives it much more specific power, whereas the feelings can be, the danger is that it might sound kind of generic and kind of miss the boat of why it really is a good thing that the person is upset in a variety of ways. And but when I work with Jill and we always get blow away results in 2 hours when we're working with somebody, we always do a lot of the feelings, and for some reason it seems to work really well, and we'll often do a thought or two at the end. But I think Jeremy's idea to start putting the greater emphasis on the thoughts might make it more individual and help more people see really why they're upset, and why those reasons that they're upset are actually a good thing, because there's so many different thoughts you can have, but only 7 or 8 or 10 negative feelings. So you have a much bigger vocabulary to work with when you're positively reframing thoughts. But they're both good. And another thing I want to mention is you can positively frame anything. You can also do positive reframing for distortion, like overgeneralization or all or nothing thinking. We're used to thinking of those as bad, but they're actually, something positive and beautiful and awesome. Where would the world be without overgeneralization or generalizations? That's what biologists do. They categorize things into categories: leaves and flowers and bacteria and all kinds of things. And generalization is what science is all about, finding the general laws of nature and so forth. So even a so-called cognitive distortion can have a lot of positivity that's hidden within it.
That's really cool, David. I just learned something. Thank you.
Especially when I'm working with a new client who's never done a daily mood log before, I always start with positively reframing feelings, because our thoughts are what drive our feelings. We want to see what it is about our feelings that say really awesome things about us or speak to our core values or give us some kind of advantage. But it is also true that it's more generic. Like, for example, anxiety is very often motivating for everyone or many people. So perhaps it is common that a beautiful thing it says about someone who feels anxious is that they're motivated. And so once we positively reframe the general feelings, we may not need to positively frame feelings again, but every time you do a daily mood log, your thoughts might be different, and your thoughts are completely unique to you and the situation you're in. So then if for future daily mood logs, I'd say, well, what do you think about these feelings? Is it the same positive reframe than we've done before? And then yes, most of the time people say yes, maybe there's a few variations. And then we move into positively reframing the thoughts of that particular situation that's causing them distress.
That's a good answer. Thank you for that, both of you. I think the biggest problem with positive reframing, the challenge that therapists have, is that it's really, we're looking for an aha experience, not something generic.
Right.
And we want to see why in each person's unique experience their suffering is showing something totally awesome. And often you can't get it from a list of what the positives about the different emotions. That's lazy thinking if you're the therapist. You have to be able to see something the patient hasn't seen. And I can remember when we were working with Sonny, and he had become very anxious again. And this was one of our podcasts. And he had tried positive reframing, the good things about his anxiety and his guilt and his shame and all of that. But he couldn't talk back to his negative thoughts, and he couldn't see what was really good about it at all. And so everything was falling flat. I don't know if you remember. And then it occurred to me in the session to say, "Oh, Sonny, can you see why it's really totally awesome and anxious that you're, or awesome that you're anxious again?" Because he was telling himself he's one of the world's top experts in anxiety, and he's been through 2 or 3 anxious crises in his life, and he should be over it by now, and he should be able to get out of it. Can either of you remember what I came up with, or what we came up with that suddenly gave him the aha experience?
No. Do you?
I can make a guess. So the thought was I should be over it.
Yeah, I should. Why am I so anxious again? I thought I was anxious when I came out in Hong Kong as being gay when I was young. That was a huge thing. When he came out, he was terribly anxious and got out of that. And then he got very anxious when he decided to switch his career from a Silicon Valley, high tech, high salary, that he wanted to get a clinical social work license so he could help people, and that was another moment of huge panic for him, and he got over that. And then just recently he had another huge attack of anxiety.
One knowing Sonny, I would imagine that's connected to a value of wanting to have sustained kind of progress in his life without interruption, but to be at his very, very best, actually to help others. And to that calmness he'd want to be able to bring into the world so that other people could benefit from that.
That's a good guess. Do you have any guesses, Rhonda?
Well, I think it shows how much he cares about people and his dedication to others that he's continuing to feel anxious.
Right. And see, those are beautiful generic positive reframes, but would not have done him an iota of good, because it missed the point, and we were all missing the point until it came to me, and that's that every time you've been anxious, it's because you've decided to go in a radically new direction with your life, and that scared you. And this time it was brought on by he decided he was going to go down to working half time and spending the other half time doing family things and enjoying himself. But again, that freaked him out. It made him anxious. Well, now I'm violating society's norms again. And so it was really showing that he was being courageous again. And again, it's kind of like what you said, Matt, but not quite the flair of it, but growing and learning and doing something new and exciting with his life. And as soon as he saw that, then he was able to knock his negative thoughts out of the park and go into enlightenment again in a matter of minutes. But if we had just done a normal kind of positive reframing thing, which we had done and he had done and all the people in our group had done it didn't hit the mark at all. And so sometimes you've got to see something that's invisible right now to the patient. And then once it comes out, everything becomes suddenly clear.
Yeah, I hear you on that, David. I think you're exactly right, and it can be like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
or a lateral thinking problem. It's something we have to spend time with, and it can actually consume a good deal of time in therapy to do that. But it's so valuable when you see it and it becomes clear.
Right.
And in a way, it becomes a hidden emotion come to light.
Yeah, it was there. Yeah, kind of like good. That's a good analogy, Rhonda. Well, let's go on to another question. We might be able to do two this podcast rather than just one.
Charlotte asks two questions, so let's put them both in. Her first question was, what's the best way to use the table you designed, you created? 20 qualities I'm looking for an ideal mate. Is this tool reliable? And she also asked, what's the best way to find out if someone you're dating is going to be loyal, faithful, and honest? Dear David and dear Rhonda, I love the podcast so much. It has come with me the last 2 years, almost every week, and it's been incredibly helpful both as a therapist to be and as a human being during this crazy thing called life. You two put so much of your heart into the podcast, and I'm beyond grateful for all your hard work and what you give to all of us for free every week of the year. I don't know where I'd be without Team, and what I know for sure is I never want to live without Team and this beautiful community of kind, funny, and big-hearted people anymore. Big thanks to both of you and to Matt May and all the people who agree to publish their personal work. Those episodes are extra special for me and always help me overcome my own struggles even more. Hugs from Berlin, Charlotte. I also have a question regarding your episodes around dating. Oh my God, I can't tell you how helpful they were for me. I'm going through a pretty painful breakup right now, and these episodes gave me so many tips for my future endeavors of dating to find a life partner. So I would be more than thrilled about another or more podcasts going through that topic. I have two questions regarding dating that came up for me along the way. There is a sheet I use often, and it was mentioned, called 20 Qualities in a Partner. I love this and rated all my exes in hindsight and also people I dated, for example, my then boyfriend. My boyfriend got a way higher score than my exes at the time, and now that we're broken up, I reviewed that list. Knowing what I know now, the score changed quite a bit, which confused me a lot. Now I'm wondering how reliable this list is, especially if you don't know the person very well in the beginning. How do you handle this list when you're on your first date, let's say, and barely know that person? It's hard to rate someone on availability, loyalty, honesty, and so forth when you don't know them yet. Is there a trick you can do to find that out quicker? And do you recommend to review that list after every date and see if you can rate them more realistically now? My second question is a bit similar. How can you slowly find out how trustworthy, empathic, honest, loyal, faithful a person is. Interestingly enough, since my score on both anxiety and depression is 0, for most of the time the last 2 years, I had 2 bad experiences in dating. Both my partners were unfaithful and dishonest about it, which is interesting for me because my 2 long-term boyfriends were at a time I was struggling with anxiety, and both of them were very loyal, warm, faithful, and very much involved in our relationship. So I feel like my anxiety motivated me to choose very carefully. And now that I'm doing really good in life and love being by myself and don't need a relationship anymore, but want to have a life partner and marry eventually, I kind of seem to choose more poorly when it comes to partners. I hope my questions make sense. Warmly, Charlotte.
Well, let's take them one at a time. So easy for people to get confused and overwhelmed. The first question is the 20 qualities in a partner a reliable list? And we'll explain people what it is first, so that you'll understand the question. It's something I first published in my book, Intimate Connections, and a lot of people have found it incredibly valuable who were involved in dating. And essentially, you make a list of 20 or 25, whatever you prefer. Well, let's keep it simple and say 20 things I'm looking for in an ideal partner. And for example, number 1 might be availability. In other words, dating someone who's available might be more desirable than dating someone who's unavailable. And then, so you rate every category from 0 to 5, and then you might have, somebody who is honest and would be 1, and then someone who's loving, and someone who's sexy, and someone with a good career. And all the different things that you're looking for, and you rate people from 0 to 5, and so the total score will go from 0 to 100, and then you can have different criteria, like if the score is greater than 60, they're worthy of a date or 2, and if the score is 65, you might be willing to date them, on several occasions. And I think Beck said if you can find someone with a score of 70 or above, marry them immediately. So it's just kind of cool because it often puts people in perspective, because you might be dwelling on, oh, well, this person is so attractive, they've got to be wonderful. But then they have a lot of other qualities. They're not faithful. They're very self-centered. They're really not the most fun or rewarding person to hang out with, and so it kind of helps you get things in perspective. Now, your question is it reliable, which means, will you get the same ratings every time? And no, and it's not supposed to be reliable in that sense, and it would be a worthless scale. And the idea is you will learn more about people over time, and you can re-rate them. It only takes 5 minutes to re-rate them and add up the score. But it helps you put things in perspective. And when scores change over time, that's important information that might make you more or less interested in that particular person. So I'll turn it over to you two on this thing.
I've used this form or this tool a lot. Sometimes I don't use it the way that you intended it. I'm sorry, but I use it for people who say, well, I don't know what I want in a person. And so we use this to list the qualities that they're looking for and how important they are. Like available is very important, and funny might be very important, but for other people, funny might not be very important. And I think the way Charlotte used it is really appropriate, like rating her past relationships. And I've done that too, to see if there's a pattern that someone hasn't been engaging in that they might want to think about continuing, or think about might this pattern be important to break and go in a different direction? So like somebody who has had 3 or 4 relationships and the person hasn't been very available, that tells them something, that maybe that's a quality that they're looking for that they haven't found yet. And that's something that when they start a new relationship should be more conscious of being aware of in the next person.
Okay, you're up to bat, Matt.
Okay, sorry, I missed a little bit of what you said there, but I remember when I first came across this method. I believe it's described in Intimate Connections, in your book Intimate Connections, and I did the exercise just like you said to do it. But the thing that shocked me the most was that I think the scale was something like if someone gets a 70% or higher, you should immediately marry them. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, if we're dating, I think you could make 2 errors. You could have too high of standards or too low of standards. You could choose to be with someone and you're not that compatible. Or you could miss out on someone who's really awesome if you're holding out for perfection or waiting for perfection. I think this method can help with that. And in terms of how to do it, there are a lot of different ways of doing this. The way that it's set up that you described there, you just list the 20 qualities, can be slightly enhanced, in my opinion, if we also weight how important each of those qualities is on a scale from 0 to 10, so that the math is more like a weighted average. Right now, there's sort of like a 1 value for each item, and we're measuring those on a scale from 0 to 5. So we're pretending that each of those is just as important, that a sense of humor is just as important as being honest, for example. And it probably isn't. And then another way of kind of tweaking things is to think, is this value something that I need, or is it something that I want? And then also, what am I looking for? Am I just looking to have fun in a short-term relationship and get things that I want? Or am I looking for something more long-term, in which case I would want to value those things that I need in a relationship a lot more than just the things that I want? And yeah, it'll change over time. It can change moment to moment. Like you could have one bad conversation with someone and suddenly their scores will go way down. And then you could have a healing conversation and they'll go right back up again. When you're first dating, it's really hard to get a good first impression, though. I think people Chris Rock says, you don't meet people, you meet their representatives. And on that first date, it's even more so. People are nervous and they're trying to put their best foot forward, and it's kind of hard to get to know someone. My parents always recommended go out on at least 3 dates with someone. Don't base too much weight on that first time with someone.
Great answers. Now, Charlotte also asked, what's the best way to find out if someone you're dating is going to be loyal, faithful, and honest? And I think she's implying that she's been burned a couple times by dating people who she thought were really loyal and honest, and then it turned out and faithful that they were kind of playing around behind her back. So what's the answer to that question, Matt and Rhonda?
Many episodes ago, I talked about how I asked Michael a lot of questions before we started dating, and they were probing questions. And the conversation, that what was important was not just his answers, but how he answered, and that he was willing to engage in the conversation. And so those are particular questions that were important to me. But I would say to Charlotte, at some point in the getting to know you, to ask the person, not a yes or no question, but how many times have you ever been in a relationship where you had an affair and didn't tell the person you're in a relationship with? And, it will be interesting to hear their response, and it will be interesting to hear how they receive that question. But that's what I would do. I'm pretty blunt.
That's great. That's great, Dave, Rhonda. But how about just the question? Are you looking for a monogamous, faithful type relationship, or more of an open type of relationship, or what excites you? How about that?
I love that question.
Yeah,
I like that, and I would still say that some people will lie there. Some people will say, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for something real long term," but they're actually not. And so a follow-up question can be helpful there too, is why? Why are you looking for a long-term relationship? Or why would you want to be honest or loyal in a relationship?
Yeah.
Why not just go after get what you want and leave? And if someone can have a really compelling answer for why they would want an honest, long-term, loyal, faithful relationship, and you can tell it's coming from their heart, then I'm much more inclined to believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's another, that's great. That's wonderful. And then I think another thing is learning from life's experience. And I've been burned by believing in sweet talking people who turned out to be, kind of have a side that they were hiding. But one thing over time, I've interacted with a lot of con artists, and I used to deal with rare coin dealers and the buying and selling coins. And the one rule there is that you're dealing with thieves, and you have to become pretty clever in how you deal with them, and find the ones who are honest and not trying to screw you over. But part of it is that there's this learning process in life. And now I'm really good, I think better than most people, at spotting a con artist. And telling. It's like when things are a little too good to be true. I was watching that thing last night on TV, Shark Tank, where these people get on and try to sell their company to investors. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And this young woman came on, and she was so polished and smooth. She was like a female Tony Robbins, and they were all, these hardcore investors were, listening to her sobbing. And I was thinking I wouldn't touch this woman with a 10-foot pole. She was just a little too good to be true, and gave me creepy feelings. And it doesn't mean that they were right, but I'm pretty good at picking up that type of thing. And so in dating, that's why in intimate connections, I urge people to do a good amount of dating. Don't try to, find one person and marry them because you're so afraid of being alone. But learn to play the field a little bit and interact with a lot of people so you can grow and learn. And when a relationship falls apart, don't think of it as a failure. Just think of it as, I successfully realized that wasn't the person I'm looking for, or maybe not even the kind of person I'm looking for.
Yeah, this answer isn't part of team therapy, maybe, but I would also say wait 5 dates before you have sex with someone. And there's no set rule about when to have sex when dating, but waiting to include sexual intimacy can really help you figure out who this person is and build an emotional connection and really figure out the other person's like true character, and maybe filter out people who are only interested in like a casual relationship, and somebody who's interested in a longer term relationship would be willing to wait. And yeah.
And I think that's such great advice, especially for a man, because I know when I was dating, women were always wanting one-night stands and wanting to have sex.
I know, they're so demanding, these women.
Yeah, and I told them, oh no, I always wait at least 5 dates before I have sex, and that really saved me from the.
You're going to let them into your pants that easily.
I know. Don't let people shouldn't think that you're too easy.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyway. Anything else on this topic?
Well, Matt wants to say something, right?
Yeah, I really liked what you were saying, David, about just sort of trusting your gut. If the hairs start to stand up on the back of your neck, it's a good time to get out, even if you can't pinpoint exactly why. That's been shown to be very helpful for people, and was part of the training that I received. If you're in a room evaluating a patient and you start to get kind of scared, even if you can't explain why you're scared, just leave the room. The other thing I would point out is oftentimes people are just in patterns, and if you get to know, like, what are their friends like? Do they have long-term friends? What were their previous relationships like, and why did they end? And to see kind of what their pattern is like, and it'll probably be similar going forward. I always love the story about the old man who's sitting on the porch, and a stranger comes into town and says, "Hey, what are the people like here?" And he says, "Oh, well, what are the people like in the town where you're from?" And the first person says, "Oh, they're just awful. They're mean and underhanded and dishonest, and they try to manipulate you all the time." And the old timer said, "Oh yeah, that's what they're like here too. Yeah, you might want to move on." And then a little while later, another person comes in and asks the same question: "What are the people like in this town?" And the old timer says, "Oh, well, what are they like where you're from?" And they said, "Oh, everyone's friendly and they're vulnerable and honest and treat each other with a lot of kindness and warmth." And the old timer says, "That's exactly what the people are like here. I think you're going to love our town." And so, and the final thing I'll say is, try to go on a long car trip with somebody. If you're not sure if you're able to get along with them, do something that's challenging and see how you overcome those challenges together. And if you guys can work through a hardship, a flat tire, getting lost, running out of gas, and just see how do they treat other people along the way? Are they kind to someone who's needing help? Are they kind to the waiter in a restaurant? Or do they kind of blow people off and treat them badly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had to say on that one.
Okay, well, that might be a good time to stop. What do you think, David?
Yeah, absolutely. And we thank you, Charlotte, for your kind comments and your two good questions. And then Julia, for your great question on positive reframing. And really fun talking to you all. Keep sending your questions and suggestions to us, and we love all of you and appreciate all of you. And when we're recording this, we're in the Jewish holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and then we've got the Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of that stuff coming up too. And so we wish you all the best in this holiday season, regardless of your religious or spiritual orientation. And to us, it's spiritual, just having the chance to hang out together and talk to you folks. This is our religion, so to speak.
Beautifully said, David. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.